Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into the world of post-quantum cryptography.
Oh, yeah.
You sent over some research, and it looks like you're really interested in, how cryptography is going to change in the future, with quantum computing becoming more and more of a thing.
Right.
So, yeah, we're going to, explore all the different approaches, strengths, weaknesses, the whole 9 yards.
Well, I think what's really interesting here is that, quantum computers have the potential to kind of turn cryptography on its head.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of the systems that we use today,
Yeah.
things like RSA or elliptic curve cryptography, they really depend on problems that are difficult for classical computers to solve.
Right.
But quantum computers might be able to just blow right past those problems.
Yeah, that's what's kind of freaking me out a little bit, honestly.
Yeah.
What happens when all of a sudden our current encryption is basically useless?
Yeah.
So can you, break that down for me a little bit? Why are quantum computers such a game changer when it comes to this stuff?
Well, it really comes down to the underlying math.
Oh, okay.
So, for example, RSA relies on the difficulty of factoring really large numbers.
Right.
And classical computers really struggle with that.
Yeah.
But a quantum computer, using something called Shor's algorithm, could factor those numbers exponentially faster.
Wow.
I mean, we're talking about breaking RSA encryption in a fraction of the time it would take a classical computer.
So does that mean, anyone with a quantum computer could just break into, banks and government systems and, all of our online accounts?
Potentially, yeah.
Oh.
That's the threat that we're facing, and that's why researchers are working so hard on post-quantum cryptography.
Right.
It's all about developing these new crypto systems that can hold up even against these super powerful quantum computers.
Okay, so that's the goal, but how do we actually get there?
Yeah.
It sounds like there are a bunch of different approaches that people are exploring.
Exactly. There's no one silver bullet here.
Yeah.
Some of the most promising approaches right now, though, include code-based cryptography, lattice-based cryptography,
Okay.
multivariate quadratic systems,
Okay.
and hash-based systems,
Gotcha.
each with their own kind of pluses and minuses.
So let's start with the code-based cryptography.
Okay.
That one sounds kind of cool.
It does sound kind of like cloak and dagger.
Yeah.
But basically, it uses the difficulty of decoding random linear codes.
Okay.
So imagine you have a message that's been encoded using a secret code.
Right.
Even with a quantum computer, it's still super hard to break these codes efficiently.
So it's kind of like trying to break a cipher, but on a massive scale?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the McGeely's crypto system is a great example of this.
Okay.
It uses something called GOPA codes,
Okay.
which have this really interesting property where they're really easy to decode if you know the secret structure.
Right.
But without it, decoding is incredibly hard, even for quantum computers.
So it's like having a secret decoder ring that unlocks the message?
That's a really good way to think about it.
Okay, cool.
So in the McGeely system, the private key holds that secret structure of the GOPA code,
Right.
allowing whoever has it to decode the message.
Okay.
And the public key is basically a scrambled version of the GOPA code, making it almost impossible to decode the message without that private key.
Okay, that's pretty clever.
Yeah.
But how does it actually work? How do you encrypt and decrypt messages using this system?
So imagine you want to send a secret message.
Right.
First, you take your message and you convert it into a string of zeros and ones, right, representing the data.
Okay.
And then using the public key, you add a specially crafted error pattern to that string.
So you're basically scrambling it.
Exactly.
So no one can read it without the decoder ring.
Yep. And that scrambled message, that's what we call the ciphertext.
Gotcha.
And that's what you send to the person you want to receive the message.
Okay.
And the recipient, because they have the private key with that secret GOPA code structure,
Right.
they can use a special algorithm to remove that error pattern and get back to the original message.
Wow, so they can literally unscramble it because they have the right key.
Yeah.
But hold on, you said that these GOPA codes are really hard to break even for quantum computers?
Yeah.
But how do we know that's actually true? Couldn't someone come up with some quantum algorithm to just crack them?
That's a great question, and that's one of the big ongoing challenges in this field.
Yeah.
While there's no guarantee that they'll always be secure, there's a lot of confidence in their resilience.
Okay.
For one thing, the best-known algorithms for decoding random linear codes are still really inefficient, even with quantum computers.
Okay, that makes me feel a little better.
Yeah.
Are there any other concerns with using GOPA codes, though?
Yeah, there are a few potential weaknesses.
Okay.
One is that it's not always easy to tell a GOPA code apart from just a random code.
Oh.
So if an attacker can figure out that they're dealing with a GOPA code, it might be easier to break.
Interesting.
And there are also concerns about efficiency of decoding for really large codes,
Okay.
which could be a problem for some applications.
So code-based systems have potential,
Yeah.
but they're not perfect.
Right.
What about lattice-based cryptography?
Okay.
I've heard that's a totally different approach.
It is.
What's the main idea there?
So lattice-based cryptography is really cool because it uses these problems that are inherently super hard to solve, even for quantum computers.
Okay.
Like we talked about factoring large numbers being difficult,
Right.
but imagine trying to find the shortest route through a maze with thousands of dimensions.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's kind of like that.
My head already hurts.
It is definitely mind-bending.
Yeah.
But that's what makes it so appealing for post-quantum cryptography,
Right, because it's hard.
because it's so hard.
Gotcha.
Even the best-known algorithms for solving these lattice problems are super slow, even with quantum computation.
So even with a super powerful quantum computer, you're still stuck in that maze with no shortcuts.
Pretty much.
Okay.
And that's why there's so much excitement around lattice-based crypto systems.
Yeah.
Plus, it's really versatile.
Yeah.
You can use lattices for encryption, digital signatures, even more advanced stuff, like fully homomorphic encryption.
Wait, fully homomorphic encryption? What's that?
We could do a whole other deep dive on that.
Okay.
But basically, it allows you to perform calculations on data without actually decrypting it.
Okay, that sounds incredibly powerful.
It is.
Like you could analyze sensitive data without ever actually seeing the raw data.
Exactly.
But cool.
But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. We were talking about lattice-based encryption.
Right.
One of the most well-known crypto systems in this category is called N-tree decrypt,
Entry encrypt.
which stands for nth degree truncated ring units.
Okay, I'm just going to call it N-true encrypt.
Yeah.
Because that other name is kind of a mouthful.
It is a mouthful.
But can you break it down for me? Like, how does N-true wink actually work?
Absolutely. So the core idea is actually pretty elegant.
Okay.
Your private key is a pair of polynomials.
Okay.
You know those algebraic expressions from math class?
Mm-hmm.
With really small coefficients. And they're carefully chosen to have certain mathematical properties.
Gotcha.
And then the public key is derived from these private polynomials, creating this thing called the trapdoor function.
Okay, trapdoor function.
Yeah.
I feel like I've heard that before, but can you remind me what that means in this context?
So a trapdoor function means it's easy to compute the output of the function,
Okay.
but it's almost impossible to go backwards and figure out what the input was without knowing this secret piece of information.
Right.
In this case, that secret piece of information is the private key.
So it's kind of like a one-way street.
Yeah,
Easy to go in one direction, but you can't go back without a special key.
exactly.
Okay.
So when you want to encrypt a message using NTU encrypt, you first represent your message as a polynomial.
Okay.
And then you combine this message polynomial with the public key polynomial,
Okay.
and you add some random noise.
Wait, noise again. It seems like every time we talk about post-quantum cryptography, there's always this random noise being thrown in.
It's a common theme.
Yeah, what's the point of that?
The noise is super important for security.
Okay.
It helps to make the ciphertext look random, and it obscures the original message.
Okay.
To decrypt the ciphertext, the recipient who has the private key uses those special properties of the private polynomials to essentially cancel out the noise
Okay.
and recover the original message polynomial.
So it's like a secret noise filter
Yeah.
that only the recipient knows how to use.
Exactly. And N2 encrypt is appealing because it's actually pretty efficient
Okay.
and has relatively small key sizes compared to some other post-quantum approaches.
That's good.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing there's some downsides too, right?
Of course, no system is perfect.
Right.
One of the main criticisms of N2 encrypt is that its security relies on this very specific set of lattice problems.
Okay.
And these problems haven't been studied as extensively as some of the other ones out there.
Okay.
So there's still ongoing research to figure out just how hard these problems really are.
Good.
And whether they might be vulnerable to attacks, including quantum attacks.
So we're not 100% sure how secure it is in the long run.
Yeah, there's always a bit of uncertainty in cryptography.
True.
But that's why research is so important.
Okay, fair enough. So we've talked about NTRU encrypt as one example of lattice-based cryptography.
Right.
Are there other approaches in this category that are worth knowing about?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Another class of lattice-based cryptosystems is based on the learning with errors problem,
Okay.
or LWE for short.
LWE, got it.
And this one's really interesting because it has a super strong theoretical foundation.
Okay.
There's actually mathematical proof that breaking certain LWE-based cryptosystems is at least as hard as solving some of the hardest lattice problems out there,
Even with a quantum computer.
even with a quantum computer.
Wow, so we actually have like mathematical proof that these systems are super difficult to crack,
Yeah,
even with quantum computing.
exactly. It gives us a really high level of confidence in their security.
That's pretty reassuring.
It is.
So tell me more about this LWE problem.
Oh.
What is it?
So imagine you have a bunch of linear equations,
Okay.
like y equals mx plus b, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But they've all been messed up with a bunch of random noise.
Okay.
The LWE problem is about trying to figure out what those original equations were
Okay.
from this noisy data.
Gotcha.
And it turns out that's incredibly difficult to do even for quantum computers,
Okay.
especially when you start increasing the number of equations and variables.
So it's like trying to solve a system of equations where all the numbers have been like slightly scrambled.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Okay.
Now, to build a crypto system based on LWE, you basically use these noisy equations as your public key.
Okay.
And the private key is this secret vector that lets you unscramble the equations.
Oh, gotcha.
So to encrypt a message, you basically encode it into another vector,
Okay.
and then use the public key equations to create a noisy ciphertext. And then only the person with the private key who knows the secret vector can remove the noise and actually decrypt the message.
So once again, the noise is acting like a shield,
Exactly.
protecting the message from anyone who doesn't have the right key.
Exactly.
Okay.
And what's exciting about LWE-based cryptography is that it offers really strong security guarantees.
Right, because we have that mathematical proof.
We have that proof.
Okay.
And it's pretty efficient, too.
Nice.
There's a lot of research going on right now to make these systems even more practical and adaptable.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
This is all super fascinating, but I have to admit I'm feeling a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah.
We've covered code-based cryptography, lattice-based cryptography, all these different algorithms and problems.
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
Yeah.
But I guess the main takeaway is that researchers are exploring all these different ways to build crypto systems that can stand up to quantum attacks.
Exactly.
Okay, so far we focused mostly on code-based and lattice-based methods.
Right.
What about those other approaches you mentioned? Yeah.
Multivariate, quadratic, and hash-based systems.
Yeah, those are really interesting too.
Yeah. I'm curious to learn more about how those work.
Let's dive into those next.
Okay, bring on the next level of cryptography.
All right.
All right, so we've explored this world of codes and lattices.
Yeah,
Lots of clever ideas there.
definitely.
But you mentioned two other approaches to post-quantum cryptography.
Right.
Multivariate, quadratic, and hash-based systems.
Yes.
Let's unpack those.
Okay.
Starting with multivariate quadratics.
Right.
What's the basic idea behind this one?
So MQ systems, or multivariate quadratic systems, are really interesting
Okay.
because they leverage a different kind of hard math problem.
Okay.
So instead of factoring, or those lattice problems we were talking about,
Right.
they rely on the difficulty of solving systems of multivariate quadratic equations over finite fields.
That sounds like a mouthful.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mouthful.
Can you break that down for me? Like for someone who hasn't looked at a math textbook in a while? Sure. So imagine you have a bunch of equations,
Okay.
but instead of just x and y,
Right.
you have many variables like x, y, z, w, and so on.
Okay.
And these equations aren't just simple linear relationships like y equals 2x plus 3.
Right.
They involve squares and products of these variables. That's where the quadratic part comes in.
So it's like solving a giant system of equations with a whole bunch of unknowns and exponents flying around.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And over finite fields just means that we're working with a special kind of number system.
Okay.
But the key takeaway here is that solving these systems of equations is incredibly hard,
Right.
even for quantum computers.
So how do you turn this really hard math problem into an actual crypto system?
So in MQ systems, the public key is a set of these multivariate quadratic polynomials.
Okay.
And the private key is a secret trapdoor that allows you to solve the system.
Okay.
So to encrypt a message, you essentially plug your message into these polynomials and evaluate them,
Okay.
like plugging in values for x, y, and z to get a ciphertext.
So you're basically transforming the message using this system of equations.
Right.
But how does the recipient decrypt the message if they don't have the secret trapdoor?
Right. So they don't need the trapdoor to encrypt,
Okay.
just to decrypt.
Gotcha.
Decryption uses some clever mathematical tricks,
Oh,
things like linear algebra and Gaussian elimination.
okay.
And that allows the recipient with the private key to efficiently solve the system
Okay.
and recover the original message.
So it's like they have a special shortcut
Yeah,
that lets them navigate through this maze of equations.
exactly.
Okay, but what about security?
Right.
Are MQ systems truly quantum resistant?
That's one of the big questions right now.
Okay,
While they've shown some promise,
right.
there's still a lot of research going on to
Got it.
try to figure out how secure they really are.
Gotcha.
One concern is that we don't have the same level of theoretical understanding
Okay.
of the hardness of MQ problems
Okay.
as we do for, say, lattice problems.
Right.
There's no proof that they're as hard to solve as some of the other problems we've talked about.
So there's still some uncertainty about how well they'll hold up against future quantum algorithms?
There is.
Okay.
And there are also some practical challenges.
Okay, like what?
MQ systems tend to have larger key sizes
Okay.
compared to some other approaches,
Right.
which can be a drawback for certain applications.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But there's a lot of research going on to try to improve their efficiency and reduce those key sizes.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like a promising area,
Yeah,
but more work needs to be done.
definitely.
Okay, let's move on to the last approach on our list.
Okay.
Hash-based cryptography.
Right.
So I've heard that hash-based systems are actually quite old,
They are.
but they're making a comeback in the context of post-quantum security.
Yeah, they're getting a lot of attention.
Why is that?
Well, hash-based digital signature schemes have been around for a while,
Right.
but they're gaining new interest
Okay.
because they're based on the security of hash functions,
Right.
which are thought to be resistant to quantum attacks.
Okay, remind me what a hash function is again.
So a hash function
Yeah.
takes any input,
Okay.
a document, an image, a whole book even,
Right.
and produces a fixed size output,
Okay.
this unique digital fingerprint, you might call it.
Okay.
And good hash functions have some really important properties.
Okay. Like what?
One, it's very difficult to find two different inputs that produce the same output.
Right.
This is called collision resistance.
Collision resistance.
And
Okay.
another is that given a hash, it's incredibly hard to find the original input.
Right.
This is called pre-image resistance.
Okay, so it's a one-way function.
Exactly.
Easy to go from input to output, but practically impossible to go back the other way.
That's it.
Okay,
And that's what makes hash functions so powerful for cryptography.
gotcha.
So in a hash-based digital signature scheme,
Mm-hmm.
the idea is to use a hash function to create a signature
Okay.
that proves the authenticity and integrity of a message.
Okay, can you walk me through how that works? Sure.
Like, let's say I want to send you a digitally signed document.
Go.
How do I use a hash function to do that?
So one of the simplest examples is the Lamport-Diffie one-time signature scheme.
Yeah. Lamport-Diffie.
Because imagine you have a document you want to sign.
Right.
You first create a secret key consisting of many random bits,
Okay.
zeros and ones.
Okay.
Then, for each bit in your message,
Mm-hmm.
you generate two hashes, one for a 0 bit and one for a 1 bit,
Okay.
using different parts of your secret key.
So for each bit in my message, I have two potential hashes,
Right.
depending on whether it's a 0 or 1.
Exactly.
Okay.
Well, now, to sign the message,
Yeah.
you simply reveal the appropriate hash
Okay.
for each bit based on the actual bits in your message.
Gotcha.
And the sequence of revealed hashes becomes your signature.
Okay, so how does the recipient verify my signature if they don't have my secret key?
Right. So you also have to give them your public key,
Okay.
which is basically a list of all the possible hash pairs that you generated.
Yeah. One pair for each bit in the message.
Okay.
To verify the signature, they simply take your message, hash the corresponding bits using the public key,
Right.
and compare the results to the hashes in your signature.
Gotcha.
If they match, they know the message is authentic and hasn't been tampered with.
That's pretty neat.
It is.
But you called it a one-time signature scheme.
Yes.
Does that mean I can only use this key to sign one document?
That's the main limitation of this scheme.
Okay.
Once you've revealed those hashes in your signature,
Right.
you can't use them again.
Okay.
If you try to sign another document with the same key,
Mm-hmm.
someone could easily forge a signature.
Right. They could just reuse the hashes.
Exactly.
So it's like a one-time pad, super secure, but you can only use it once.
That's a good analogy.
Okay, but what if I need to sign multiple documents?
Yeah.
Do I need to generate a brand new key every single time?
That's where things get more complex.
Okay.
There are ways to extend this concept to sign multiple messages. And one of the most well-known approaches is the Merkle signature scheme.
The Merkle signature scheme. Okay, tell me more about that.
So the Merkle scheme gets its name from a data structure called a Merkle tree,
Okay.
which is basically like a family tree for your hashes.
Okay.
Imagine you want to sign multiple messages
Right.
You start by generating a bunch of one-time signature keys,
Okay.
one for each message you want to sign.
Gotcha.
Then you take the public keys for all these one-time signatures and create a Merkle tree.
So each leaf of the tree is a public key
Exactly.
for a one-time signature.
Right. And the root of the tree becomes your overall public key.
Okay.
Now, when you want to sign a particular message,
Yeah.
you use the corresponding one-time key to create a signature,
Okay.
just like we talked about before.
Right.
But you also include a special authentication path
Okay.
from the leaf of the tree corresponding to that message
Right.
all the way up to the root.
So this authentication path proves that the one-time key I used to sign the message is actually part of the overall Merkle tree.
Exactly. And that links it back to your main public key.
Gotcha.
To verify the signature, the recipient simply follows this authentication path,
Okay.
hashing the values along the way and checking if the final result matches the root of your Merkle tree.
So it's like a chain of verification.
Yeah,
Okay. Wow. That's a pretty clever system.
it is.
So instead of having one key that I can only use once I have this whole tree of keys that I can use to sign multiple messages,
Exactly.
but is it as secure as a one-time signature?
So the security of the Merkle scheme still relies on that collision resistance of the underlying hash function.
Okay.
If someone could find two different messages that produce the same hash,
Right.
they could potentially forge a signature.
Okay.
But as long as we're using a strong hash function,
Yeah.
the Merkle scheme is considered to be quite secure,
Okay.
even in a post-quantum world.
That makes sense. So we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have,
Code-based cryptography, lattice-based cryptography, multivariate quadratic systems,
Yep.
and hash-based signatures.
right,
All very clever approaches to creating post-quantum crypto systems.
yeah, a lot of smart people working on this.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
But I'm curious, are any of these actually being used in the real world yet?
Yep.
Or is this all still very theoretical?
It's starting to move beyond theory.
Okay.
There are some practical implementations of post-quantum cryptography already out there.
Okay.
And we're seeing growing interest from governments, industry, and standardization bodies.
That's really encouraging.
It is.
It sounds like we're making some progress towards a more quantum-resistant future.
Yeah.
But I'm also realizing that choosing the right post-quantum approach
Right.
must be incredibly complex.
It is.
There's so many factors to consider.
There are.
Security efficiency, key size compatibility with existing systems,
Mm.
and probably a bunch of other things I haven't even thought of.
It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Each approach has its trade-offs.
Okay.
And the best choice really depends on the specific application and security requirements.
Gotcha.
But that's what makes this field so exciting.
Yeah.
There's so much research and development happening
Okay.
to find the best solutions for all these different use cases.
So it sounds like we've got a long and fascinating road ahead of us.
Me too.
But before we jump into the real-world implications of all this,
Yeah.
let's zoom out for a second.
Okay.
We've been talking a lot about post-quantum cryptography,
Right.
but there's also this thing called quantum cryptography.
Yes.
Are they the same thing?
They're actually quite different.
Okay, good. I always get them confused.
It's an easy mistake to make.
Yeah.
They both deal with security in a quantum world,
All right.
but they take fundamentally different approaches.
Okay.
Post-quantum cryptography is all about developing classical algorithms
Okay.
that can resist attacks from quantum computers.
Right.
While quantum cryptography actually uses the principles of quantum mechanics itself for security.
Okay, so it's like two different ways of tackling the same problem.
Exactly.
Okay, you explain a bit more about how quantum cryptography works?
Sure.
I've heard it has something to do with quantum entanglement,
It does.
which always sounds super mysterious and sci-fi to me.
It is kind of mind-bending.
Yeah.
So quantum entanglement is this phenomenon
Yeah.
where two particles become linked,
Okay.
even when they're separated by huge distances.
Wow.
What happens to one particle instantly affects the other,
Okay.
no matter how far apart they are.
That's crazy.
It's like they have this spooky connection that transcends space and time.
I'm trying to wrap my head around that.
It is hard to visualize.
Yeah.
But it's a real thing.
Okay, so how do you use this entanglement for cryptography?
So one of the most well-known applications is quantum key distribution,
Okay.
or QKD for short.
Exciting. Oh.
The idea is to use entangled particles to share a secret key between two parties. Let's call them Alice and Bob.
Classic Alice and Bob.
Yeah.
Okay.
And QKD allows them to do this in a way that is provably secure against eavesdropping.
So instead of using math problems to protect the key, like in traditional cryptography,
Right.
you're using the laws of physics themselves.
Exactly. And the
Wow.
beauty of QKD is that any attempt to intercept the key will inevitably disturb the entangled particles,
Okay.
which alerts Alice and Bob that there's an eavesdropper.
So it's like a built-in alarm system
Yeah.
that goes off if someone tries to peek at the key.
That's a good way to think about it.
That sounds incredibly secure.
It is.
So if quantum cryptography is so great,
Yeah.
why are we even bothering with post-quantum cryptography?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
There are a few reasons why post-quantum cryptography is still really important.
Okay.
First, QKD is mainly about key distribution.
Okay.
It helps Alice and Bob establish that shared secret key,
Right.
but it doesn't tell them how to actually use that key for encryption or other cryptographic tasks.
Right.
They still need classical algorithms for that.
So QKD is like a super secure way to deliver the key.
Right.
But you still need the right lock and key mechanism to actually secure the data.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay.
Second, QKD requires specialized hardware.
Okay.
You need devices that can generate and manipulate these entangled particles,
Right.
which can be expensive and complex to implement.
So it's not something you can easily deploy on a massive scale.
Not yet, anyway.
Okay.
Post-quantum cryptography, on the other hand, aims to develop algorithms
Right.
that can run on existing classical computers,
Gotcha.
which makes it a lot more practical for widespread adoption.
So it's a matter of practicality and scope.
Yeah.
Quantum cryptography offers amazing security for key distribution,
Right.
but post-quantum cryptography is more versatile and potentially more scalable
Exactly.
for protecting data in a wider range of applications.
Exactly. It's not about choosing one over the other.
Right.
It's about understanding the strengths and limitations of each approach and using the right tool for the job.
Okay, this has been really helpful in clarifying the difference between those two approaches.
Good. I'm glad.
Okay, so we've explored this fascinating world of post-quantum cryptography.
Yeah.
We've talked about the different approaches, codes, lattices, multivariate systems, hash functions, and even touched on quantum cryptography.
A lot to cover.
It is.
Yeah.
But it's clear that researchers are working really hard
They are.
to build a more quantum-resistant future.
Yes.
But what are the real-world implications of all this?
Right.
How is this going to impact different industries, governments,
Yeah.
and even everyday users like me?
That's the million-dollar question,
It is.
and it's exactly what we'll explore next.
Okay, let's do it.
The transition to a post-quantum world is going to have some far-reaching consequences,
Okay.
and understanding those consequences
Yeah.
is crucial for navigating the digital landscape of tomorrow.
Okay. I'm ready to dive into the real world. Let's see how this post-quantum revolution is going to change things. Okay, so we talked about all the theory, right? All these different approaches.
Yeah.
Even touched on quantum cryptography.
Mm.
But now I want to get practical.
Okay.
How is this post-quantum revolution actually going to change things in the real world?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
It's not enough to just have these algorithms, just written down somewhere.
Right.
We need to figure out how to actually use them,
Yeah.
how to deploy them,
Uh,
make sure they're actually protecting our data,
right, because it sounds like if our systems aren't ready,
Yeah,
things could get kind of messy.
definitely. The transition is not going to be easy.
Yeah.
There are a lot of challenges.
Okay, let's break it down.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest hurdles we need to overcome?
Well, on the technical side,
Okay.
one of the main challenges is that some of these post-quantum algorithms,
Mm-hmm.
they have much larger key sizes
Okay.
compared to the algorithms that we use today. And this can affect performance,
Hmm.
storage requirements.
Right. It's like trying to fit a giant key into a tiny lock.
Exactly.
It's not going to be very smooth.
Not smooth or efficient.
Yeah.
And it's not just about size either.
Okay.
We also need to make sure that these algorithms are efficient enough
Mm-hmm.
to run on, the devices that we use every day.
Right.
Our phones, our laptops, even those tiny little sensors
Yeah.
in the Internet of Things.
Right.
We can't have security that slows everything down to a crawl.
Right. So it's like a balancing act
Yeah,
between security and efficiency and compatibility
yeah,
with all the systems we already have.
absolutely.
Okay.
And then there's the issue of the threat landscape itself.
Okay.
The transition to quantum computing is not going to happen overnight.
Right.
We're likely to be in this hybrid world for quite a while
Yeah.
where, both classical and quantum computers exist.
So we can't just abandon everything we're doing now and
Yeah.
switch over to post-quantum cryptography all at once.
Right? We need to make sure that our systems are secure in both worlds.
Okay.
So developing solutions that are resistant to attacks from both classical and quantum computers.
So it's like building a fortress with 2 layers of defense.
Exactly.
Okay, so there are those technical challenges.
Right.
What about the logistical side of things?
So this is where things get really complex.
Okay.
The transition to a post-quantum world is going to require this massive collaborative effort.
Okay.
We're talking about researchers, industry experts, policymakers, standardization bodies.
Wow.
Everyone needs to be on board working together.
It sounds like a huge undertaking.
It is. It's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
Researchers need to keep pushing the boundaries, developing new algorithms, refining existing ones.
Right.
Industry needs to assess the impact of quantum computing on their systems, figure out how to implement these new solutions.
Okay.
Policymakers need to create frameworks
Right.
and incentives
Yeah.
to encourage the adoption of post-quantum cryptography.
Wow.
And then standardization bodies
Yeah.
need to establish guidelines and best practices
Right. To make sure it all works
to
together.
make sure everything works together smoothly and securely.
So it's like a giant puzzle
Yes.
with all these different pieces
It is.
that have to fit together just right.
Exactly.
Okay.
And there's another crucial piece of this puzzle, too.
What's that?
Education and awareness.
Oh, right.
We need to demystify post-quantum cryptography,
Yeah.
make it accessible to a wider audience.
Yeah, because it's hard to get people to care about something
Right.
if they don't understand it.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, the security of our digital future really depends on everyone understanding the stakes
Right.
and taking the right steps.
It's like anything else in cybersecurity.
Right?
Knowledge is power.
Knowledge is power.
The more people understand the threats, the more people understand the solutions, the better off we'll be.
The better prepared we'll be as a society.
As a society, exactly. Okay. So we've talked about all the challenges,
Yeah.
but let's flip the script for a second.
Okay.
Let's talk about the opportunities.
Right.
What are some of the potential benefits of moving to this post-quantum world?
Yeah, I mean, every challenge also presents an opportunity.
That's true.
One of the biggest opportunities here is that this whole transition is forcing us to rethink security.
Okay.
We have to re-examine our assumptions,
Mm-hmm.
identify vulnerabilities,
Yeah.
and come up with more robust and resilient solutions.
Right.
This can actually lead to a lot of innovation,
Okay.
not just in cryptography,
Yeah.
but in all areas of cybersecurity.
So it's like a catalyst for positive change across the whole field.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Another opportunity is that this transition is creating a whole new industry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, there are companies popping up
Okay.
dedicated to developing and deploying these post-quantum cryptographic solutions.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's creating jobs, it's fostering innovation, it's driving economic growth.
That's great to hear.
Yeah.
It sounds like this transition could have a really positive ripple effect
Yeah.
across the whole tech sector.
I think so.
Okay, cool.
And let's not forget the potential impact on different industries.
Okay.
For example, in finance,
Right.
where security is so important,
Yeah.
post-quantum cryptography could help protect sensitive financial data
Yeah.
from attacks by quantum computers,
Okay.
ensure the integrity of transactions,
Right.
maintain trust in the system.
So it's about safeguarding like one of the most critical sectors of our economy.
Exactly. And in healthcare,
Okay.
as medical records become more and more digitized,
Mm-hmm.
post-quantum cryptography could be crucial
Yeah.
in protecting patient privacy,
Right.
ensuring the confidentiality of sensitive medical information.
So it's not just about protecting data,
Right.
about protecting people.
It's about protecting people, exactly.
Okay.
And the same goes for national security and defense. Imagine a world where, critical infrastructure,
Right.
military communications, intelligence data,
Yeah.
all protected by quantum-resistant encryption.
That would be huge.
It could help deter attacks,
Uh-huh.
maintain stability, safeguard national interests.
So the stakes are pretty high.
They are very high.
This isn't just about, abstract math problems or anything.
No,
It's about protecting our way of life.
exactly. And let's not forget about the impact on everyday users
Right.
like you and me.
Yeah.
In a post-quantum world,
Uh-huh.
we need to make sure that our personal devices, our online accounts,
Yeah.
our communications are all protected
Right.
by this quantum-resistant cryptography.
Right.
This will help to ensure our privacy, protect our data,
Uh-huh.
maintain our trust in the digital world.
So it's about empowering individuals
Yeah.
to take control of their own cybersecurity
Right.
in this new era of computing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Yeah.
I want to leave you with a few key takeaways.
Okay, I'm ready.
First, the transition to quantum computing is a real and imminent threat
Okay.
to our current cryptographic systems.
Right.
Second, post-quantum cryptography offers a path forward, providing solutions that can withstand the power of these quantum computers.
Okay.
And third, the journey to this post-quantum world.
Yeah.
It requires a collective effort
Okay.
involving collaboration, innovation,
Yeah.
and a commitment to making sure that our digital future is secure and trustworthy.
That's a great note to end on.
Yeah,
It's been an incredible journey exploring this complex and rapidly evolving field.
it has been.
We've gone from the theoretical foundations to the real-world implications.
Yeah,
And it's clear that post-quantum cryptography is going to shape the future of technology
it really is.
and security in some really profound ways.
Absolutely. And for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
remember to stay curious, stay informed, and stay engaged.
Yes.
This is a field that's constantly changing, so keep learning,
Right?
keep asking questions,
Yeah.
and keep pushing for a more secure digital future.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
All right.
Thanks to everyone for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks, everyone.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep innovating,
Yeah.
and stay safe in the digital world.